Latino, we are Native American, we are Democrat, we are Republican, we are independent, we are people of faith, we are people not of faith, we are natives and immigrants, we are business leaders and workers and unemployed, we are doctors and the uninsured, we are gay, we are straight, we are students, we are parents, we are retirees. We are North Carolina, and we are here, and we ain't going nowhere.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming to this press conference. I am Representative Rosa Gill, one of the 13 representatives from Wake County, and it's a great morning to be here. The purpose of this press conference is to deliver a result of an activity that the NAACP held over the past couple of weeks. Ms. Michelle Laws of the Executive Director of the North Carolina NAACP will present the results of the People's Grand Jury on the denial of Medicaid expansion, and she will have other jurors or people to assist her.
Thank you, Representative Gill, members of the press and the public. The North Carolina NAACP and Forward Together Moral Movement partners knew that the decision of Governor Pat McCrory to deny Medicaid expansion, which was supported by the North Carolina General Assembly under the leadership of former House Speaker Tom Tillis and Senator President Pro Tem Phil Berger, we knew that there would be significant consequences, that their decisions rooted in political gaming and partisan narcissism would bode well for them, but cause grave harm to hundreds of thousands of North Carolinians. We see their actions, and we saw them at the time, as morally indefensible, constitutionally inconsistent, and economically insane. The voices of thousands that turned out at our Moral Monday movement, demonstrations and direct action were tuned out. The reasoning of impartial experts in the medical field were ignored. The loss and profit analyses that were done by economists were devalued. So on February the 16th and again on March 2nd, we, the people of North Carolina, convened the People's Grand Jury. We based our grand jury on the core, fundamental, constitutional statement, Article 11, Section 4 of the North Carolina Constitution, which states, and I quote, "Beneficent provision for the poor, the unfortunate, and the orphan is one of the first duties of a civilized and a Christian state," end quote. The North Carolina Constitution also clearly declares life to be an inalienable right. But our elected officials here in North Carolina have chosen to trample on our Constitution. Our leaders ignored the real consequences of not expanding Medicaid for the 500,000 North Carolinians who the expansion would have covered, and the over 2,800 individuals who we knew could die. We, the people, realized that we had to stand up for the people. And so we as North Carolinians, we stood our ground and we demanded what was right before anyone else dies, demand what is right before anyone else dies by not having health care. Those pleas went ignored and unanswered. And so we decided to convene the People's Grand Jury. And today we have the indictment as a result of the hard work, the thoughtful deliberation, the balanced consideration of the evidence. I'm going to turn it over now to to Scott Holmes, who is a partner, has been a partner, and instrumental in making sure that the People's Grand Jury was executed, implemented, with very careful, critical thinking and analyses. Scott.
Thank you. I'm Scott Holmes. I'm a volunteer attorney with the NAACP. I am a Durham lawyer. As far as I know, never before has a group of citizens convened inside the General Assembly to conduct their own hearings. As far as I know, it has never before happened that a group of citizens have gathered to symbolically indict their own officials for careless disregard for human life and economic growth. We saw that no hearings were being held. We saw that the evidence was not being considered, and the people decided to do it themselves. On February 2nd, a group of concerned citizens gathered in this General Assembly in a hearing room to hear evidence. They heard evidence from people directly affected by the failure to expand Medicaid, people in the Medicaid gap. These are folks who make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but not enough to afford Obamacare. We heard evidence from doctors, healthcare providers. We heard evidence from experts in the field of public health and economic growth. We heard experts, legislators, describe the legislative process. Members of the People's Grand Jury asked their own questions. They heard the evidence. On March 10th, they gathered in private to deliberate. They considered the evidence from the people directly affected, from the experts, from the doctors, and they reached their own conclusions. And now I'd like to introduce Vicki Ryder, who is the foreperson of what we believe is the first People's Grand Jury.
As a private citizen, it was daunting to find myself as the foreman of a grand jury charged with having to decide whether or not there was sufficient evidence to indict our elected officials for the actions that they took, which would so seriously affect so many of our neighbors. I'm going to read to you, if I may, the conclusions that our grand jury came to after listening to the testimonies from people like Leslie here, whose son died because he could not get access to affordable health care. It was a preventable death. Never should have happened. There were many other testimonies that we heard that day from people suffering from preventable and curable diseases who will likely not see their lifetimes fulfilled. We heard testimony from doctors who must treat patients who don't have access to affordable health care. We heard evidence from legislators who talked to us about the failure to follow due process in allowing input from the citizens who elect our officials. And this is the conclusion that we came to, and I will read it to you now. Having heard the testimony of doctors and other healthcare providers, patients, and other citizens currently unable to access affordable health care, legislators and economic experts, and having had the opportunity to examine and consider the evidence put before us, the panel of citizens hereby concludes that the accused have failed in both their official duties and their moral obligations to act in the best interests of the whole for the people of North Carolina and for the common good. We find that the accused have failed to undertake seriously their duty under the North Carolina Constitution to care for the poor, and have acted with reckless indifference to the rights and safety of North Carolinians and an immoral disregard for the sanctity of the lives of the citizens of our state. Further, they have forfeited funding that would have added greatly to our state's economy, would have created thousands of new jobs, and would have provided affordable access to preventive and life-saving health care for 500,000 citizens of our state. For these reasons, we find sufficient evidence to indict as follows. For acting in violation of Article 1, Section 1 of the North Carolina Constitution, guilty. For acting in violation of Article 1, Section 2 of the North Carolina Constitution, guilty. For acting in violation of Article 9, Section 4 of the North Carolina Constitution, guilty. For violating their North Carolina legislators' oath of office in failing to faithfully discharge their duties by allowing no expert testimony, no public hearings, and no meaningful debate on an issue of life and death to the citizens of North Carolina, guilty. And finally, for pursuing policies that exhibit a reckless disregard for human life and evidence a significantly high probability of prolonging serious illnesses or needlessly causing death, guilty.
So now we have the transcripts of these proceedings. We have the exhibits, the expert exhibits, over 400 pages of record we have created. The hearings are all recorded and online. The indictment has been signed, and it is our intention to go personally serve the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President Pro Tem. And it is our intention to send the entire record, more than 400 pages of transcript, testimony, exhibits, to all of our leaders and serve them electronically. We learned from these proceedings three things. First, we learned that people have died and will continue to die because of this failure to expand Medicaid. Second, we learned that our leaders have failed to consider the full human and economic cost of the failure to expand Medicaid. And third, we have learned that billions of dollars of federal funding have been rejected that would have created jobs and increased revenue that would have more than paid for the state's share of these Medicaid costs. And as with this indictment, we hope our leaders will take seriously their obligations under the North Carolina Constitution. Under Article 1, Section 1, we hope they will take seriously their obligation to protect life. We want our legislators to start caring for life after conception. We want them to take consideration Article 1, Section 2, their obligation to govern for the good of the whole. We want them to govern for all North Carolinians, whether they're rich or poor, black, brown, or white, male or female, gay, straight, or trans, Republican or Democrat, people of all faiths, people of no faith. And finally, we want them to take seriously their North Carolina constitutional obligation to care for the poor and the unfortunate. Article 11, Section 4. We want our legislators to start taking their duties seriously to take care of our most disadvantaged people of North Carolina. With this indictment, we symbolically name the failure of our leaders as crimes, showing a careless and disregard for the well-being of North Carolinians. Now we will take the indictment and
we will also open up for questions from the media if there are any at this time before. And then at this time, as Scott has, if there are no questions or following questions, we will deliver the indictment to Speaker Tim Moore's office, Senate Pro Tem Phil Berger's office, and to Governor Pat McCrory's office. Are there any questions at this time?
This is all symbolic. What do you hope to accomplish?
So we hope that first of all, the elected officials and leaders that we've just indicated, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Pro Tem, President, and the Governor will strongly reconsider and their decision not to expand Medicaid, not in a political chicanery attempt to fool the public as if they are really trying to move us in that direction, as what we think recent deliberations and discussions have been about, but that they take the findings from this indictment seriously and use it to guide their actions and thinking around expanding Medicaid, and to do so with deliberate and swift speed at this point. Lives are being lost. We don't know the count, but we do know that those who have been denied access to care, who suffer from chronic health conditions, illnesses and diseases, who cannot get care, will die. And so we ask that they take the findings that we have compiled in the indictment seriously, and that they use it they use those findings. The second thing we hope to happen is that the people will understand that we cannot rest. Those of us who believe in justice, those of us who believe in fairness cannot rest, and that we're asking that this re-energizes the people of North Carolina to say that this isn't a fight that's over. And it's certainly not a fight that they would like for us to believe has been won and settled. It is not settled. It's far from settled. And it's always the right time to do the right thing and to make the right decision. So we hope that the people of North Carolina, all throughout North Carolina, will hear this, will understand that this grand jury existed. It wasn't just something to do. Many people had jobs, many people had other things tying up their time, but they knew how important it was to come and represent the people of North Carolina. So that's what we are hoping, that our leaders will move in a positive direction, not just the leaders, but all of the North Carolina members of the General Assembly, and that the people of North Carolina will start calling their representatives and elected officials and saying, we want you to expand Medicaid now.
Another thing that we've done is create a record. We've created a record that was not created by our leaders. A record that shows the economic benefits of expanding Medicaid to our state, the number of jobs that would be created, well-paying jobs, the amount of tax revenue that would more than match our matching funds, and we challenge them to respond with their own statistics. If they do not believe that the economics are correct, then they need to show us their economics that says that it will hurt our state to expand Medicaid, because all of the experts agree that this is a win-win. This saves lives and increases money. I think Dr. Vanderhorst has some comments too.
So I think the key thing for all of you to realize is that when we initially started our protests and our press conference and we wrote op-eds back in 2013, it was a new legislature, a new governor, but the Affordable Care Act had not been implemented then. But now we have over 12 months of data. So 2014 is finished, many states expanded Medicaid, and we have concrete evidence published in peer-reviewed journals showing both the medical benefit in terms of lives saved by expanding Medicaid and implementing fully the Affordable Care Act, as well as the economic benefit of states that did expand Medicaid and that is actually leading to a boom in employment and the local economy, as opposed to North Carolina, whose unemployment rate has lagged the improvement in the national rate. So, I mean, this is and we've got a reconstituted General Assembly. We've got new senators and new representatives, and so we feel it's important that we bring this new data and concrete evidence showing the benefits, and we hope they'll reconsider, because it should no longer be a partisan thing. And we talk about the moral stuff, but of reasons to do it, but Reverend Barber always talks about that the morals are actually based on the concrete scientific and economic evidence, and that's what derives your moral arguments. So we feel that we've got these three arguments, that it's new data. We had the old moral arguments, but now we can buttress them more with the economics and the medical data in terms of the impact on lives saved. It's costing, not expanding Medicaid is costing the state money. And these people call themselves fiscal conservatives. There's no evidence of their fiscal conservatism. It's just total nonsense what they're doing. And you know, when I testified and the grand jury asked me what I thought, my vision, I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched enough, Perry Mason and things like that, to know, and CSI, to know that if you are in a car, even though a murder was committed, even though you didn't pull the trigger, you are as guilty as the person who pulled the trigger. So from my perspective, they've committed murder by not intervening when they have all the weapons they need to prevent these deaths. And I think it's just totally a horrible crime that they're committing. And that's why this is, I'm really pleased that the grand jury listened to our evidence. I was one of the witnesses and came down with the indictments.
Thank you, Dr. Benares. Are there any other questions from the media?
So if they don't take action in response to your effort here, what happens next?
So what happens next? We come back, as we did in the past in 2013 and 2014, by the thousands. We come back, we make our appeal, we continue to make our appeal, and some consideration of some family members in terms of legal action that they may, in fact, consider based on the findings from the grand jury. Now, we know it wasn't an official legal proceeding, that it was symbolic, but the evidence was real. The testimonies were real. And so we will come back. They will see us, the people. The moral movement is alive and well, contrary to what some people may want to think. And so we will be back, and we will continue to make our demands.
Can I just add one thing? There is one other thing that we all can do, of course, and that is that these officials making these decisions on our behalf were elected to serve us.
That's right.
And if they don't serve us and they don't do the will of the people, then we have the power of the vote. And we need to remind them that their offices are temporary.
Mm-hmm.
The damage that they're doing is permanent.
That's right.
So we have every opportunity to say to them, you were elected to represent the people. You do not represent the will of the people. You do not represent the common good, and we will see to it that you can be unelected.
Amen. So you're saying that the Moral Monday protests will pick up again? Is that coming after Easter?
So as Reverend Barber has always said, that we respond according to our elected officials not responding to us. And so there are plans. We actually have our Education and Advocacy Day that's coming up April 14th, where we will be here again presenting our demands to our members of the General Assembly here who, as Vicki pointed out, were elected. It's not a permanent position, although some covet it as if it is, and lots of money, dark money, and Reverend Barber also says we don't really know what happens in the dark, and just what we do know, the money that has made it to the light is nauseating enough. But we will be back, so we respond. We're hoping, though, that they will do what is morally right, but also what is economically prudent for North Carolina. Over $100 million were lost with their initial decision not to expand Medicaid. And we're expecting that between 2016 and 2020 to exceed in the billions of dollars. That's fiscally irresponsible. And when we're talking about taxpayers' dollars, there are other states that are benefiting from us making our folks sicker, not providing the care that they deserve and that they need. And also, I'd like to say that there's the assumption that we're talking about giving medical insurance or coverage, Medicaid dollars to people who are sitting around, who are lazy bums doing nothing. The vast majority of these folk that we're talking about are working people who've poured into to North Carolina's economy through taxes, who've labored and made sure that North Carolina companies profit. And these are the ones that we're talking about who have been excluded from getting a basic, fundamental right, and that is the right to life and the right to health care. So we'll be back, and as I mentioned, the moral movement is alive and well. We're not a moment. We don't convene around hot button issues or what's sensational. We are moved and we are compelled to come when there has been grave injustices enacted upon the people of North Carolina by the very ones that we elected to protect and to serve us in a judicious manner.
When do you expect litigation to begin?
We are hoping we won't have to have litigation.
Probably
So
are, knowing the politics stuff.
Right.
Realistically,
So
you're threatening a lawsuit. When do you expect to do that?
that has not been determined or decided at this point. We are hoping again that we don't have to go through extreme measures. We don't have to go that somewhere along the way that they will realize that this is the right thing to do and that we don't have to battle this in court, right? We shouldn't have to battle this. That's the ideal. And again, we're operating right now. Our focus today is to deliver the indictment, and let's see how they respond before any discussions of litigation are had.
But I think in discussing litigation, it would be important to ask our leaders, what do they think Article 11, Section 4 means? Governor McCrory, what do you think it means that we have a duty to the poor? What do you think it means that we have a duty for the will of all people? What are the concrete legal manifestations of the constitutional article that requires us as a state to take care of our poor? What does the legal counsel for the General Assembly think about that? And it's important to have those conversations and even get their position on that before we do something as silly as waste taxpayer money litigating something that should be a foregone conclusion.
Okay, so we have a witness who would like to make a comment before we conclude, and I think considering the loss that she has experienced, we should give her that.
And I'm Leslie Boyd, and I'm from Candler, North Carolina. I just wanted to show you the face of what happens when you don't provide people with health care. This is my son who died of colon cancer because he couldn't get a colonoscopy because he couldn't get insurance because a birth defect is a pre-existing condition. 5 to 8 people are dying every day the way my son did in North Carolina alone, an estimated 17,000 a year across the nation. This is a sin. This is a crime, and I'm so glad they've been indicted here in North Carolina.
Thank you. So at this time, we will proceed with the delivering of the indictment. I'm glad you're here. You can escort us to the speaker pro tem when we're done here. Thank you. We'll get our taxpayers' dollars out. Hello. Michelle. Good. Michelle Laws.
Yeah,
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
My name is Vicki Roder.
Hey.
I'm a citizen of North Carolina.
Good. Good to
I'm
see
Scott Holmes. Nice to
Hey,
meet you.
how are you?
I'm good.
Is the speaker in by any chance?
No, it's not. I'm afraid he's unavailable.
He's unavailable. Is he in or just
No,
unavailable?
he's not in.
He's not in at the moment?
He's not.
We have come as constituents of the Speaker to deliver an indictment that was developed by a people's grand jury in listening to testimony on the harm that will come to our state and our people by the Speaker's refusal to accept the Medicaid expansion funds. And we wanted to present the copy.
Okay, well, I'll make sure the speaker gets it, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Can you make sure he reads it?
Make sure he gets it.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of new information, and the decision that he made was based before the information was available.
Okay. Hello, how are you? Michelle Laws with the North Carolina NAACP and also the people of North Carolina.
Barbara.
Hi, I'm Scott Holmes.
Nice to meet you. Barbara.
I'm Leslie Boyd. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, go ahead, Liv. And I'm Vicki Ryder.
Yes. And we have other constituents out in the hall representing the people of North Carolina.
And so we had this hearing where we had experts come and testify. We had people who...
I'm sorry, Scott, first.
Oh.
Is the speaker in?
Senator Berger.
I mean, I'm sorry, not the speaker, but is Senator Berger in? No, the Senate
Okay. All right. So we were concerned about the failure to expand Medicaid, and we had people who aren't getting insurance, who are sick because they can't get insurance, testify about that, what that means for them and their families. We had doctors testify, and we had experts in economics testify, and we created a transcript of all of their testimony. And there was about 14 exhibits from like the New England Journal of Medicine and different economics points of view and reports that have looked at other states like Kentucky and Ohio that have expanded Medicaid and how that has been an economic good thing for them. And we put all that together in a transcript with materials to give our legislators so that they will reconsider their failure to expand Medicaid. We also believe that the failure to expand Medicaid is killing people, and that really shows a careless and disregard for the life of folks. And so there's an indictment in here as well, naming the different ways this failure to expand Medicaid has harmed people of our state. And so we'd like to present this to the President Pro Tem and ask him to read it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
May
much.
I ask a question? Are you a mother?
I'm a mother and a grandmother.
We'd like you to
I lost
meet
my
this.
son because he was denied care. He died from neglect. I consider it negligent homicide. And there's nothing worse than sitting by your child as he breathes his last when it should never have happened.
All right. Thank you very much.
For many more people like Leslie who are being affected by the decision to refuse the Medicaid expansion funds, we seriously encourage that this be read very carefully and considered.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, did you walk into the shoes together? Because now we have to walk up the hill. Straight to the governor's office.
So you want to take the elevator, go down and cross?
All right.
Any comments?
Oh, dear, that's funny. Thank you. Lila, I'll talk to you later. I said it has not physically, it's still going strong.
No offense to you, Scott, and that might be the problem.
I'll hold it for you.
Hello. We're here to see the governor.
The governor?
Yes.
I haven't seen him come in, but I'll go check.
All right. And if he isn't, is Mr. Stiff in? Is Thomas in? Thomas Stiff, his chief of staff? Yeah. We do not do that. That's the spirit. That's right. Saying,
Like the wind.
yeah, and knocked over the flag saying, how dare you all trample over the Constitution? And how dare you disregard the poor and the needy? Right. Neither one is there.
Can I help you?
Do they have any representatives or anybody who works for them, like a secretary or a staff or anybody?
You could go to the Department of Administration over here on Jones Street.
No, we like to deliver it to the governor's office as people of the United
So there's
of
nobody,
North Carolina.
nobody working in the governor's office
There's no one in there today.
on Monday.
No, just a secretary.
Okay, well, we can give it to her.
No.
Okay.
Why is that?
If you want to give it to her, if you can take it to the Department of Administration.
We can't see the governor?
He's not here, ma'am.
We can't go to his office to deliver something to the secretary.
He must have a representative in his office.
Is the governor's office closed to the public?
Hello?
No.
Okay.
Oh, how do I get a visitor's tour? How can I get a visitor's tour?
Just come through the metal detector.
Okay. So we're going to run back.
Okay. Well, this
So are we going to be able to go in as
they
visitors?
usually say it on the tables. Down to Jones Street to the
We're not
Department of
interested in delivering to
Administration.
the Department of Administration.
Okay.
We're interested in delivering to the governor, and I'm trying to figure out, as a citizen of North Carolina, why I don't have access.
Yeah, I'd like.
I would like to come through.
Okay, you need to put your purse in.
Okay.
There's nobody back there that you can drop it off to. I've already told you, ma'am, 3 times, okay? The secretary's not back there. There's nobody back there.
Did I miss it? I thought you said there's just the secretary.
Come on through.
I've got 2 lenses. There's some metal in there.
Okay, just open that for me. Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. Come on. No, I'm not saying anything else to you, okay? I've already explained it.
No, you haven't explained it.
Okay.
You've just said the same thing over and over again, but you haven't explained it. I'm asking you why we can't drop it off in the office.
Come on, Dre. You need to put your purse there, man. You have jewelry in?
Or with you, and we were told that neither of you were in, but we also wanted to just get access to the governor's office to drop off an important document with the secretary or the receptionist. And we're being told by the security officer that we could not do that, that we needed to go down to the Department of Administration to leave something for the governor. So you being the chief of staff for or to the governor, I wanted to verify that that is indeed the correct information. It's the first time I've ever heard that, and I'm quite troubled by it, as you can imagine. I'm calling from someone else's cell phone because, interestingly, mine never works when I come in here. So could you give me a call back on my cell, and you have that number. Thank you.
Michelle, I'm asking the officer why we can't deliver the package to the secretary, because I heard him say the secretary was back there, and now he's telling me there is no secretary
I
back
just
there.
let Thomas do the message.
Okay.
We're trying to find the governor on Monday morning. The governor is not in his office, and evidently nobody's in his office.
Now,
Not even one person.
Back there.
But we went over there, and we could hear people back there. And I just read that the state motto is to be rather than to seem. And it seems like the governor's not at work here, or doesn't have anyone here at work. And we hope that we can be and not seem, because I bet there are folks at work. And all we want to do is drop off.
hello?
Not.
Anyone here? In the people's house?
Hello?
Is there anybody in the governor's office?
Hello?
Does the governor work here ever?
Hi. Is anyone here?
Anybody home?
I'd like to take a tour.
We'd just like to leave something for the governor's secretary.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
No way to run a state.
All right, so we have been denied access to even be able to deliver a packet of information to the secretary or the receptionist.
There is no
So
reception.
we were told there is no one here.
And it appears to be true.
But we hear voices, so maybe it's the ghosts of the people of North Carolina who have died, who are haunting the walls of the governor's office. Let's just hope.
Maybe Mikey's here.
I thought I heard the police officer tell us.
was there.
Say hi to
Didn't he say that the secretary? Did you all hear him say that the secretary was here? But now, when I asked him,
Oh, so there are people here.
Hi.
Okay.
They're working here, aren't they?
Yeah, we can give it to whoever's working.
Who's working?
Scotty said on either side there's people.
Okay.
Let's go find somebody who's working. Please do not enter. Hello?
Not. We just want to drop something off to the governor. Is there anybody here who can receive something for the governor?
This is our tax dollars.
Is anybody here?
Is there anybody here who can take a document for the governor?
Is anybody working for the governor today?
Does the governor have any employees in this building today? I think everyone slammed the door.
It's private. There's private stuff going on down here.
Chair convention.
Nobody works for the governor, of course, but
He doesn't even know what it is.
He said we can give it to him. It's too bad. It might have been.
Is there anyone that can take a document for the governor? Is there anyone here who works for the governor in the State House? Is there anybody home?
hello?
It could be.
Well, it's almost one, maybe going back.
All right, here it is. Hold it. Here you go, Doug. See if you can hand that off over there.
Someone is there? Liv just barricading in international waters. When they were on that.
Somebody in the building here should be able to accept this. I hear what you're saying. Is there nobody else here that needs this?
I just can't. It goes to DOA.
Yeah.
Let me call her.
We wanted to deliver it directly to the governor. Okay, so who would be his secretary?
She's across the hall.
Across the hall. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, ma'am. I understand. Just be the secretary for the governor.
You're the secretary for the governor?
Thank you so much. Okay, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
No, we're not supposed to. Can you read that sign? Please exit. The secretary's not back there. There's nobody back there. Please exit. Please exit. Yes, sir.
So we will come back.
Scott, I shall.
Okay, we're all set.
I'm talking to the officer who was dispatched to come over here because the policeman at the front seems to be new and doesn't know the procedures. So this gentleman is trying to be helpful.
Sir,
And
Yes, ma'am.
wonderful. So we have a package
I think
that
that-
we would like to leave for the governor.
I think we left it to the secretary.
So
I did leave it.
we did leave it.
They did take it.
Yeah.
They took it. We can go.
Great. Okay. Do we know who we delivered it to? The governor's secretary.
Hey, thank you, sir. Go Duke. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Wanted to speak to you.
David Smith. All right, thank you.
And then we have, as we sit there, we have 3 women come out. Once they don't hear the voices, and supposedly there's no one there. And you know, they have nothing to fear. We pay their salaries. We want them to stay employed, but we also want them to serve us with the respect that we deserve. And we came in peace. We didn't come to do any harm. We simply came to deliver an important document to the governor. And to be denied access to our governor. Exactly. That's an atrocity, and that's a shameful, shameful representation of living in a democratic state. We live in a democracy, right? And so we're not in North Korea. We are supposed to have access to those who govern us.
I truly apologize for any inconvenience, and I hope we can work it out in the future. But
I hope so too, and I'm very disturbed by that, as all of us are.
Sure.
And so we will make sure that the governor is aware of that, and it has been documented how we've been treated in our own.
And make sure he always has somebody here who can take a package if he's not going to be here.
Right.
You should have somebody who can take a package.
Thank you.
That is ridiculous.
Do I carry the steward over here? Okay.
Have a good rest of the day. So we have completed the delivery of the indictments to the Speaker of the House, Speaker Tim Moore, the Senate Pro Tem President Phil Berger, and we attempted to deliver to Pat McCrory, the governor, and were denied access to his office. We were denied access and informed initially upon attempting to deliver that there was no one there to accept it. And then we were told that the secretary was there, but that she could not accept it, which some of us, this is normal protocol for us. We've done this before. It quite interesting, took us off guard because we've been able to come and deliver something that we haven't always been able to come and meet with the governor, but we have at least been able to come and meet with the secretary or someone that's representing his office. We were informed that no one was there. And then as we stood there attempting to see where we were hearing voices from, if bodies would come, would surface, and not just the voices, two members of our party went down the hall and indeed did see two women. One woman rushed past us as if we came to do harm and we came in peace and came to deliver a document on behalf of the people of North Carolina who are dying and who are hurting as a result of this governor's actions. At any rate, we leave very disappointed and ashamed of Governor McCrory. And we are ashamed of his chief of staff, Thomas Stith, who would not answer a call and in an attempt to get an explanation as to why their office, no one is in the governor's office that can do the business of the people on behalf of the governor. And that's quite disturbing.
I think it's also disturbing that the security personnel lied to us, telling us first that there was a secretary there, then that there wasn't a secretary there, and then we discovered that indeed there was somebody there. And we saw other people going through without any problems, so it clearly was a case of, at least from my point of view, of selective enforcement of a stay-away regulation that I'm not aware exists, because this is, as Michelle said, the people's house. And we have every right to visit the office of the governor. He's not here. I don't know why, but nobody's in his office to just receive a document. It seems awfully fishy to me.
And I wonder, they work for us. His secretary, the police officer, they are public officers. They are public servants. They are public employees, which means that their salary is paid by my taxpayers' dollars. And so, it really causes me to think, I wonder what would happen if, in defiance, I selectively chose not to pay my taxes so that we wouldn't pay their salaries or pay the salaries of people who would treat us in that manner. It's the same as when I do business, when I shop in stores. If I'm treated poorly, I don't go back. I don't pay my money and invest my money where people don't treat us right or treat me right. And so, again, it's problematic on many, many levels, because those persons who were there, who surfaced, worked for me, worked for her, worked for Vicky, worked for Scott, worked for all of us, Christina, Reverend Gatewood, all of us. They work for those of us who work and pay our taxes. And so for them not to serve us and treat us accordingly is problematic. So.
And I agree with Reverend Laws. I was told by the police officer that there are people upstairs working, but then we were told that there wasn't anybody there. So what is the truth?
This is a matter of life and death. People are dying every day from lack of access to health care. This is not a game. This should not be political. People are dying. We need to fix this now.
So we hope that the governor and the speakers will read our documents and give us a response. We want to know what they think about the economics, the billions of dollars that we're going to forego. What do they think about the job estimates? What do they think about the lives that will be lost? What experts do they have that show that this was a good choice for North Carolina? Because just as they haven't been heard today, they didn't hear the evidence when they made the choices and failed to pass the legislation. Right. So they need to have the hearing. They need to have a public debate instead of hiding.
Attorney Holmes, I do think we need to understand something too. Reverend Laws was just told that she was talking too loud. We're going to have to determine what is too loud. Because this is a police officer telling our representative she's talking too loud when she's using her regular voice. Right. So that's something else that we're going to have to address with the General Assembly. Right.
And their arbitrary interpretation and enforcement exactly. Yeah, which is concerning to some of us, because we can see when that is, we can see the extreme of that when officers are allowed to use their own discretion exactly. in determining what is acceptable behavior, what is a threat, or what is too loud, what is a violation of policy, rules, and regulations. And so it's an excessive use right. And overreach of their power and authority. And we've seen around this nation how traveling down that road can be a very dangerous and deadly path to travel.
I'm curious to see today, where are they right now? Who are they meeting with right now?
Right.
What business is more important than the economics and the lives of North Carolinians? Are they meeting with people who are going to save lives? Are they meeting with doctors? Are they meeting with North Carolinians?
Right.
Where are they?
Right.
I bet they have a good answer, but we want to hear it. Where are you?
Right. And we were told, Reverend Barbara and I were informed that, Scott, interestingly, that Monday has been declared by the right, we don't use that term because there's nothing right about their politics, by extreme fractions of the Republican Party, that there would be no business done on Mondays. Now, we heard that about the General Assembly because they were preparing for us to come back. They knew that we would come back, and so Moral Mondays, they figured that they could interrupt the people's business. And so there's purposefully very little is going to be on the calendar on the Senate side and the House side. We were told that from inside, and true enough, if you look, there's very little business. Now, usually they come in at 6 o'clock and late in the evenings on Mondays. That has traditionally been the time that they come in is late, but they usually have meetings. They usually have committee meetings and do the people's business. So it's very interesting that no one is around on a Monday, and maybe it gives credence to what we heard and kind of counted as rumor at first. So it gives credence to some of the the information that we've received on the inside about Mondays and not being available to us. So I think that's interesting as well. But I'm with you. I don't know where the governor is.
Why are the buildings closed at 5 p.m. on Mondays, Michelle?
Right. My star mommy, my grandmother, has chronic pain issues, and she would be crying, hugging her knee right now if her friend didn't go and buy her prescriptions right now. She doesn't have health care, and I'm really worried that one day I'm going to wake up and she's going to be dead in her bed because I can't, because of that, and I won't have a legal guardian to take care of me.
We're going to fight.
We're going to fight for
so
you.
that won't happen.
We're
going to fight so that won't happen. That's why we're fighting.
Wow.
She said she has her faith in us.
Wow.
And you are the one that keeps us moving. And Reverend Barbara will be very, very proud that you made this statement. And we want you to know that that's why we're out here fighting. And we're going to keep on fighting. They're not going to keep us out of the people's house. They're not going to keep us out from lifting our voices or block us from lifting our voices and fighting for the people of North Carolina like they should be doing. We're committed, we're driven by a moral compass, and we know that the God we serve is a God of justice and mercy, and we are not going to give up until justice rolls down like waters.
We are going to fight for you, for your grandmother, and for everybody.
Forward together,
Not one step back.
Forward together,
Not one step back.
Forward together,
Not one step back.
Thank you.
Went into the restricted part of the building, past the sign that says no public access. Now back to where some of the staff members were working. So I would just ask that in the future that you be cognizant of that. Please, you're welcome to come to the building at any time for any cause, but do not go into the restricted areas of the building. If you do, you're subject to be charged with trespass.
Sir, we couldn't get anybody to come and speak to us. And all we
That's
wanted
not
to
an
do was
excuse to go into a restricted area.
Okay, but your officer told us there was nobody
I'm
back
not
there.
going to argue with you.
I'm not arguing. I'm telling you a
give us a
fact.
lecture.
No, I came to give you a very polite admonition. Please don't go into restricted
Well, I'm
areas of
politely
buildings.
telling you that your officer said nobody was back there, and your officer was proven wrong.
And the sign,
Okay.
He was lying to us.
The sign.
Doesn't make any difference. He doesn't
Sure
go.
it does.
No, he doesn't. Go
Lying
into
to
that,
us makes a difference.
He doesn't go into that area of the building.
I would
So
let
what is the
let this
procedure
man
to
deliver
get
the
access
message.
to the governor's office?
He's the messenger. So we hear your
No,
message.
I'm not a messenger. I'm telling you from my own job is when you go into an area that's restricted, you can't do that. So please just don't do that
Can I
anymore.
make a recommendation also?
Certainly, sir.
That if the governor is not going to be here, he has someone who can accept the package on behalf of
He
the
does.
staff.
It's at the Department of Administration building. It's at the Department of Administration building.
No, I know where. I
The
know
reason
exactly
is
where
they have the ability to screen mail. They don't just take packages to the governor's office. It has to be screened before it can go through there. They have to check the envelopes. There's universal precautions. You know the world we live in today that has to be taken. So the Department of Administration. A lot of times, if it's a package that's closed, we'll take it and deliver it to the Department of Administration for them to screen.
Somebody could have met us.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
So how do you have a conversation with his staff then? With his staff, the secretary of the governor?
How do we have a conversation?
You don't have access.
Usually you just call and make an appointment.
Oh, okay, so you don't have access. So it isn't really an open. It's open to see the architecture.
80% of it is
and the
open.
decoration.
But the
Yeah.
wings that
It's not
say
open to
not
our
open to the
elected
public
officials.
are clearly not open to the public. We thought people would know what restricted area meant.
I'm telling you, I just don't know how I
Well,
interpret that.
this could go on for days.
It can, but I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate.
Thank you.
We try to treat you with respect. We appreciate your understanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Y'all have a good day.
Oh, you do the same.
So that was y'all's one legal. Next time they'll bring in the dog.